with us. So on the line, I have myself, my colleague John, who's one of our amazing writers, and my colleague Victoria, who works with the media.
Okay.
And she spoke with you last week. On Friday. On Friday. Okay, so first of all, I just want to give a brief introduction. So, as you know, it's Lung Cancer Awareness Month next month, and we are so grateful that you are willing to be our subject matter expert, because this means that for us, we'll be, letting media know that we have an expert, at Miami Cancer Institute that, is it that, maybe I should just hang it up. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. We're getting some
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So we plan to basically pitch your expertise to media, mostly consumer, maybe possibly trade, but consumer media, as they have questions, inquiries about any topics regarding lung cancer. You'll be the spokesperson for Miami Cancer Institute. Unless you're not available, it would be good to know if there, I think would be reaching out maybe also to Dr. Kaywin.
Sure.
I believe he's also wanting to make himself available. So, so for today, the main purpose of the call was because you said you were interested in writing an op-ed for our resource blog. Are you familiar with our resource blog, and have you written an op-ed before?
I believe so. I personally didn't write one, but I've had publications in there in the past.
Right. So articles that were made and about you. Okay. So let me just brief you really quick about the op-ed opportunity and why we think it's important and how it can benefit you, your practice, and MCI overall. So basically it's an opinion piece from an expert such as yourself, where you're responding or providing your advice, your personal take, your experience on an important topic that's, typically been in the news a lot, or a trending topic. You kind of address it from your personal angle, and you get to really establish yourself as an authority on the topic. And so different from an article where it's a general article and you're quoted as an expert, this is really your chance to kind of really just own it as the authority. And we could even possibly, no promises, but we can possibly try to even, showcase that piece to other media, and they could then possibly use it in other venues outside of our resource blog. So that's kind of the gist of it, but it's just a really good way to establish yourself as an authority on the subject matter. And to that end, and I'll let my colleague John, jump in and give you more information. We were thinking something that's been in the news a lot lately is the vaping topic. So let me let John kind of talk to you a little bit about that and get your thoughts on that.
Hey, Dr. Dylewski, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
And I know you did a Facebook Live over here about 8 months ago, I think, and where you spoke about vaping. At that time, you spoke very well about the vaping and the hazards and some benefits and hazards, and you spoke about how there's a lot that's not known yet, and I know there's no strong ties yet between vaping and lung cancer, but since you did that Facebook Live, lots has happened, especially a new wave of these lung illnesses linked to vaping that has caused like 34 deaths nationwide, and CDC is still looking into it. I know some of it is tied to THC vaping, but some is still tied to standard nicotine vaping products. So I don't know if you feel comfortable maybe writing that op-ed piece, but focusing as much.
I would have to have someone be the writer. I just don't have the time to sit down and research and write an op-ed. It's just my schedule doesn't allow it. So if you want to interview me, and we can write an op-ed from that standpoint, but I just don't have the time.
Okay.
And if you want an op-ed with sightings of literature and stuff like that, that's going to take a lot of effort.
No. This will be more directed to the health consumer, basically in plain speak. And you spoke very well during the Facebook Live. that would be almost like exactly the same language for the blog.
Yeah.
But yes, we can do that as well. And I don't know. Can I ask you a couple of questions right now?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
And once again, I know you're familiar with what's been ongoing with the wave of lung illnesses tied to vaping, as reported by the CDC and public health officials in different states. I know a lot of it is tied to THC products, marijuana.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is that, as far as we know, the majority of those have been tied to products that have THC, and there's a hesitancy of a number of a certain percentage of individuals that are unwilling to tell their physicians or the emergency room or what have you that they've participated in the use of potentially illegal products. So I believe the last report by the CDC that there was more than 80 to 85% of the cases were THC related.
Something in that neighborhood, yeah.
Right. So the problem is one problem is that the vaping devices and the vaping products are not under the control of the FDA. They don't have regulations that monitor how the substances, whether it's pure nicotine or whether it's THC products, are created and manufactured and dispensed. All right, so it is our belief that the companies that produce vaping products that are designed to help people stop smoking and contain nicotine, are relatively pure. They are not third-party products that are created for the purposes of drug use.
Right.
Okay, they were designed to help people refrain from using standard tobacco products, and they're absent of the majority, if not all, of the co-carcinogens and carcinogens that are known to be in tobacco products. Okay, right. So there is certainly an advantage or a benefit to having nicotine vaping products available to smokers. One of the main problems with vaping products, though, is that they're easily accessible. They're easy for children underage to get hands on, and they tend to have a variable product potency that can be adjusted by the owner of the vape pen. So you can imagine that a cigarette has a finite amount of nicotine within it. And if you have one of these vape pens and you can adjust the heat intensity at which it vaporizes the liquid and also the flow of the liquid through the vape pen, you can increase the potency delivered to the user. And so it is felt that they are highly addictive for new users, such as young children who pick up vape pens.
Right.
They are more addictive than standard nicotine products that we know are familiar with in the past. And we don't know what the health ramifications are the complete health ramifications of that. Right. It hasn't been around long enough. But we know that nicotine is a stimulant. It reacts in the body, causes hypertension, causes high heart rate, and things like that. And at high potency rates, it can have an effect on the body.
Right.
We haven't studied it long enough, as I indicated. The vaping pen that's used for third-party products that include THC, most of these products are developed by third parties illegally. And they're sold through the black market. In the state of Florida, we can't legally sell THC. So the majority of stuff is sold on the black market, and there's absolutely no regulation going on with regards to those products. And it has been found by the CDC and other researchers that there are certain oils that are added to the THC oil, namely the vitamin E oil, which the CDC and researchers believe that may be the underlying cause for the health illness that we're seeing in young adults that have led to the 33 deaths.
Right.
But it's not yet proven.
Right.
Okay, but that's the problem. It's not, the THC products are not pure products. It's not pure THC. It's often mixed by the third party to either increase the volume or increase the viscosity of the liquid so that it burns more favorably and for a longer period of time in the vape pen. And so in the meantime, it's not felt to be a safe product to use because we don't know exactly why it's causing the illnesses that are being seen.
Okay. What else would you tell readers in terms of not just those kind of products that I know the CDC is warning people not to buy off-market, vaping products or modify them, attempt to modify them. But in terms of the ones that are legally available, what would you tell readers?
It is my belief that the ones that are legally available, are safe. It's my belief that the majority of the illnesses that we're seeing in the population that have had this unusual pneumonia is related to THC. I think that it's a relatively safe product for the right user. I think it should be used primarily to wean someone off the use of tobacco.
Okay, and I think we need to, yes, I think that's an important point to stress because a lot of young people are starting their exposure to nicotine products by vaping, and then
I think it's important to say. I think it's important to say that there is a benefit to a current active smoker in seeking out the use of a vape pen to help them refrain from using standard tobacco products, but it is not recommended to be used as a source to start smoking,
right?
Due to its highly addictive nature. So the fact is that young adults can be addicted much quicker on a vape pen than they can using standard products.
Right.
The benefit of the vape pen is that you avoid all the co-carcinogens and carcinogens that are responsible for many of the cancers we see in the lung, the bladder, the upper GI tract, and so forth.
Right, with the explanation that there's still a lot we don't know about the vaping chemicals as well.
Well, we don't believe that the vaping pen will cause cancer. We don't believe that pure nicotine is the element that stimulates the cells to change into cancer.
Right.
What we don't know about the vape pen is that the high nicotine delivery system, what kind of havoc it's going to wreak on the body over a long period of time. We know that nicotine is highly addictive, and it can affect the heart rate and the blood pressure, and many of the other functions of the organ system over a chronic period of time, much like any other drug.
Right.
It probably has brain effects at high levels that we don't yet understand how it's going to affect the body. So, it's not a safe product to begin smoking with, but it is certainly a beneficial product in this active smoker who's trying to quit.
Okay. As a bridge to quitting, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes.
And I know
it's
that
certainly safer than regular cigarettes.
Okay, and I know that the agencies, the FDA, are moving to banning all the flavored, the special flavored vaping devices because they're attracting the teenagers, the young people. And
yes, and I think I support that. It's a very easily accessible piece of equipment that allows you to become addicted to an addictive substance, and it can be hidden and it can be utilized in any environment whatsoever with little exposure. So I think that it should be regulated. I think it should be restricted to adults rather than teenagers, and certainly the flavored nicotine products are really not designed for helping the active smoker quit smoking.
Right.
They're used to smoking regular cigarettes that are not necessarily flavored, and I don't think flavored nicotine is going to help them in any such way.
Awesome. And then it's Victoria now. We actually received an additional media inquiry, so we're going to be sending your responses today to the publication as well, sort of a kill two birds with one stone. I do have one additional question that you briefly just touched upon. So we know that people come to e-cigs and vapes to quit traditional smoking, but now we're seeing people having difficulty with quitting the e-cigarettes and the vapes. So the reporter would like to know, why is the process of quitting e-cigarettes and vapes so difficult for users?
The reason is that the potency, the amount of nicotine that's delivered through the vape pen is higher than what you get in a standard cigarette. Right. So that's why it's more difficult to quit the use of the vape pen.
Okay.
You know, and many people who start using, and this is probably important to put in the article, is many people who buy these pens don't quite understand how they can be adjusted to give a lower and a higher potency with each puff. Okay, they have variable settings that allow more of the nicotine to be delivered to the user, or less if they choose so. So, you know, someone who is not versed in how these pens work can put it on the highest setting at the very start of its use and become much more addicted than they ever thought they would be. Right? So it's proper to get, proper instruction on how to use these, particularly if you're trying to stop using standard tobacco products. Okay, and also if you're using it to satiate from tobacco, you have to understand how to adjust the pen so you don't inadvertently deliver higher doses of nicotine to yourself, so you get addicted even further.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And then I have one more question. And I'm looking more so, you've really spoken about this really the entire time, but what I'm looking for is sort of a concise quote, really, but it's, what impact can e-cigarettes and vaping have on lung health?
Well, you could probably start off with a quote I've said before. Picking up a cigarette's probably the worst and most dangerous decision any active smoker has made. So e-cigarettes are designed to help someone stop using such a dangerous product, but by no means will it improve your. Don't say that.
Well, it's okay. We're gonna
say by no means,
turn around and write it. So.
Yeah, I would just sort of make a quote implying that, you know, the cigarette is probably the most dangerous decision anybody has made who is actively smoking or have smoked in the past. It will essentially shorten your life by a minimum of 20 years if you smoke 10 years. You know, so it's just not a smart decision. I wouldn't necessarily focus on a comment regarding vaping, because you don't want to encourage people to vape actively. It's just one of those products that should be used to help people get off of traditional cigarettes because they're so dangerous.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it started. I mean, that was the intent initially when this started maybe 5 years ago. So the vape pens was meant for older adults who've already are smokers and need to get weaned off the stronger cigarettes. So, but now it's evolved into, like I said, it's almost an epidemic among young people or teens, underage. That they get it somehow, even though they can't buy them, they still get them. You know.
Yes.
So that's the problem, I guess. But I understand your initial thing was, and that's what Juul started too. I think was trying to sell it and market it as a way to bridge off to get off cigarettes. But It's evolved.
It has its important roles, but
Right.
unfortunately, human nature is such that if you find something that is available to be abused, they'll do it.
Right.
It's just not appropriate that corporations market it in such fashion. That's what's so harmful.
Exactly, and it's a nicotine product, like you said. It can deliver much more nicotine, almost right, than a regular cigarette can. That's already
It's much more addictive than a regular cigarette.
right. And nicotine is addictive as it is, one of the most addictive, and you add that. So, anything else, Victoria?
I think just as a last kind of like a summary, Doctor, what would be your recommendation in light of all this that we just talked about of e-cigarettes and recommendation, maybe speaking to that mom reader that her teenager is saying, oh, it's just an e-cigarette, vaping, it's not the same as a cigarette. Like, what would be your overall recommendation over this matter?
I would just say that nicotine, whether it's dispensed in a regular traditional cigarette or in a vape pen, is not by any means healthy. And before one considers using any sort of tobacco product or vape product, it is a significant health risk. Just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it.
Great.
Very good.
Thank you.
And I'll put something together, Doctor, and and more than 600 words or so, and then we'll see, and then we'll take it from there. I'll send it to you, and we'll review it, and
all right,
and,
all right,
take it
appreciate
from
it.
there. So
Wonderful.
I appreciate your input on this expertise.
All right, sounds good.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time, Dr.
You're welcome.
Dylewski. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
We'll
Take
be
care.
in touch. Bye-bye. So question for